What if some of your most valuable mental abilities have not even peaked yet? What if your 60s and 70s actually bring cognitive advantages that your younger self never had? The popular narrative says the brain hits its prime in the 20s and declines from there. But that story is incomplete. Today I am going to show you 6 specific mental and emotional strengths that research shows actually improve or reach their peak after age 60. These are not consolation prizes for getting older. These are genuine advantages backed by some of the world's most respected research institutions. And number 4 might explain why older investors often outperform younger ones when it comes to certain financial decisions. Gloria from Phoenix spent years feeling like her best mental years were behind her. At 64, she assumed the memory slips and slower processing meant decline across the board. She had internalized the cultural message that aging equals losing, and she carried that belief into every conversation and decision. Then she learned that some of her cognitive abilities were actually at their lifetime peak, and that knowledge changed how she approached everything from family conflicts to major life decisions. She stopped apologizing for her age and started leveraging it. Number 1. Vocabulary and accumulated knowledge peak in your late 60s. Your vocabulary and general knowledge do not decline with age. They peak decades later than scientists once believed. For years, researchers assumed crystallized intelligence peaked somewhere in the 40s before beginning an inevitable decline. New research with much larger samples tells a completely different story. The brain continues building knowledge networks well into later life, and the accumulated wisdom of 6 or 7 decades creates cognitive resources that younger people simply cannot match. This finding has profound implications for how older adults should view their own mental capabilities. Research from MIT and Massachusetts General Hospital, published in Psychological Science, followed over 48,000 participants across ages. Lead researchers Joshua Hartshorne and Laura Germine from Harvard found that crystallized intelligence, which includes the accumulation of facts, vocabulary, and knowledge, peaks in the late 60s and early 70s rather than in the 40s, as previously thought. The researchers believe this shift reflects higher education levels, more intellectually demanding careers, and greater opportunities for lifelong learning in recent generations. A separate longitudinal study of 829 adults by Runland and colleagues found that semantic memory scores increased from ages 35 to 55, remained stable until 65, and showed only slight decline thereafter. This explains why older adults often dominate in activities requiring accumulated wisdom. From trivia competitions to mentoring roles to strategic planning, the depth of knowledge built over decades provides advantages that raw processing speed cannot replicate. When complex decisions require drawing on broad life experience, older adults have access to vastly larger mental libraries than their younger counterparts. The 70-year-old board member may process information more slowly than the 30-year-old analyst, but often arrives at wiser conclusions by drawing on patterns recognized across decades of observation. This is not compensation for decline. This is genuine cognitive superiority in domains where accumulated knowledge matters more than speed. If you believe your mental prime is behind you, you may stop learning, stop challenging yourself, and create the very decline you fear through disuse. The brain responds to demands placed upon it. When you stop reading, stop engaging in stimulating conversations, and stop learning new things, you deprive your brain of the inputs it needs to maintain and build upon its knowledge networks. Continue reading widely, learning new subjects, and engaging in intellectually stimulating conversations because your brain is still building knowledge networks that peak in your 60s. Every book you read today adds to a cognitive asset that is still appreciating in value. Do not stop investing in your mind now. Number 2. Emotional regulation and happiness reach their highest levels. Why do researchers consistently find that older adults report higher happiness and less emotional distress than people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s? This finding surprises most people because it contradicts the cultural assumption that aging brings misery. Yet study after study confirms the same pattern. Older adults experience fewer negative emotions, recover from setbacks faster, and report greater life satisfaction than their younger counterparts. Something fundamental shifts in how the aging brain processes emotional information. Dr. Laura Carstensen at the Stanford Center on Longevity has documented what researchers call the positivity effect. Her landmark studies show older adults experience less frequent negative emotions and recover from emotional setbacks faster than younger adults. Brain imaging research reveals that older adults show reduced amygdala activation in response to negative stimuli, suggesting a neurological basis for improved emotional regulation. A 2010 study by Stone and Nobel laureate Angus Deaton, analyzing 400,000 participants, found life satisfaction hits its lowest point in the early 50s and then rises steadily through age 80. Research from UC Irvine following 2,800 people over 23 years confirmed that negative affect decreases linearly with age. This is why grandparents often handle family crises with remarkable calm, while younger family members spiral into anxiety and conflict. The older brain has learned, through decades of experience, which battles are worth fighting and which emotional responses serve no useful purpose. This is not suppression or denial. It represents a genuine shift in how emotional information is processed, prioritized, and responded to. Older adults do not simply feel less. They feel more selectively, focusing attention on experiences and relationships that enhance well-being while naturally filtering out sources of unnecessary distress. Harrison from Seattle noticed this shift in himself after turning 65. Situations that would have consumed him with worry in his 40s now roll off with minimal impact. He did not become numb. He became selective. Believing the myth that aging brings misery can become self-fulfilling. If you expect unhappiness, you may make choices that create it, withdrawing from positive experiences and ruminating on losses rather than appreciating gains. Trust your increasing ability to regulate emotions and choose to engage with positive experiences and relationships, because your brain is literally wired to support this now. Your emotional resilience is a superpower that grows stronger with each passing year. Use it deliberately starting today by consciously directing attention toward what brings meaning and satisfaction. Number 3. Social and interpersonal problem-solving improves with age. Older adults do not just tolerate social complexity better, they actually solve interpersonal problems more effectively than younger adults. This finding contradicts the assumption that cognitive decline affects all mental domains equally. When problems involve navigating human relationships, managing conflicts, or reading social situations, older adults consistently outperform younger ones. The social brain benefits from decades of accumulated experience in ways that standardized cognitive tests fail to capture. Research by psychologist Blanchard-Fields, published in Current Directions in Psychological Science, found that despite cognitive declines in some areas, older adults solve emotionally charged and interpersonal problems in more effective ways than young adults do. They tailor strategies to context better and use a combination of practical and emotion-regulating approaches that younger adults rarely employ. Studies from the Stanford Aging Center show older adults experience fewer interpersonal conflicts, report higher satisfaction with social networks, and navigate relationship challenges with greater skill. They are better at selecting social strategies that reduce conflict rather than escalate it, and they benefit more from avoiding confrontation when avoidance serves the relationship. When workplace conflicts arise, it is often the older team member who finds the path forward that younger colleagues missed entirely. The same pattern emerges in families, where older members frequently serve as mediators and peacekeepers. This is not passivity or avoidance. It reflects sophisticated social intelligence that recognizes when direct confrontation helps and when it only makes things worse. Decades of observing human behavior and experiencing the consequences of different approaches create pattern recognition that cannot be taught in a classroom. Judith from Minneapolis spent 30 years in human resources before retiring. She now volunteers as a community mediator and reports that her ability to read people and find solutions has never been sharper. The patterns she sees now took decades to develop. Withdrawing from social situations because you assume younger people handle them better means abandoning an arena where you actually have a significant advantage. Your social wisdom is an asset that others need. Step into mediator and advisor roles and offer guidance in family or community conflicts because your social intelligence has been sharpening for decades. Every social challenge you navigate now builds on a lifetime of learning, and your expertise in human dynamics is at its peak. The world needs what you have learned about people. Number 4. Better financial and decision-making judgment about cutting losses. Have you ever watched someone keep pouring money into a failing investment simply because they already spent so much? Researchers call this the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue investing in something because of what has already been invested rather than what is likely to be gained. It is one of the most common and costly decision-making errors humans make, and older adults are significantly better at avoiding it. Research published in Psychological Science by Strauss, Mehta, McFall, and Schuller found that adults over 60 were significantly less likely to commit the sunk cost fallacy compared to college-age adults. When presented with scenarios involving failed investments, older adults more often made the rational choice to cut losses and move on. A meta-analysis of 98 studies confirmed older adults are less susceptible to this common decision-making trap. Research from Carnegie Mellon and Leeds University by Wendy Bruin de Bruin found older adults were better at making decisions to discontinue failing commitments, especially when irrecoverable losses were large. The researchers concluded that experience and emotion regulation skills help preserve decision-making competence even when other cognitive abilities decline. While a 30-year-old might keep throwing money at a losing stock because they already invested so much, a 70-year-old more often cuts losses and moves forward. This same pattern applies beyond financial decisions to relationships, careers, and projects that have run their course. The ability to recognize when something is not working and to walk away without excessive emotional attachment to past investments is a sophisticated cognitive skill. It requires both wisdom about probable outcomes and emotional regulation to accept losses without compounding them. Warren from Austin learned this lesson when he closed his struggling business at 62. His younger partners wanted to keep investing. Warren recognized the sunk cost trap and walked away. 3 years later, he started a new venture that succeeded precisely because he was not dragging the weight of a failed commitment behind him. Assuming younger minds make sharper financial decisions ignores research showing older adults have specific decision-making advantages rooted in experience. While processing speed may slow, judgment about when to persist and when to quit often improves. Trust your instinct when something is not working because your ability to walk away from failed investments and decisions is stronger than what most younger people possess. This clarity about when to let go is a cognitive asset worth significant money over a lifetime. Apply it to every area of your life starting now. Number 5. Emotional empathy and compassion deepen. While some aspects of empathy may shift with age, your capacity to feel with others and show compassion often increases. This finding matters because compassion drives pro-social behavior, strengthens relationships, and contributes to personal well-being. The research distinguishes between cognitive empathy, which involves understanding what others think and feel, and emotional empathy, which involves actually feeling with them. While the first may decline modestly with age, the second often strengthens. Research published in Emotion by C. Gurak, Goodkind, and Levinson found greater emotional empathy and prosocial behavior in late life. When shown films depicting others in distress, older adults reported stronger empathic responses than younger adults. A review published in Frontiers in Psychology confirmed that while cognitive empathy may decline slightly with age, emotional empathy remains stable or increases. Studies show older adults report more compassion when witnessing others in distress and demonstrate more prosocial behaviors like donating and volunteering. This may reflect motivational shifts described by socio-emotional selectivity theory, where awareness of limited time redirects focus toward emotionally meaningful connections. This is why older adults often become the emotional anchors of their families, the ones everyone calls when someone is hurting. The capacity to sit with someone in pain, to provide comfort without rushing to fix things, represents a form of emotional intelligence that often deepens with age. Younger people may understand intellectually what someone is going through. Older adults more often feel it in ways that allow genuine connection and support. This compassionate presence is not something that can be faked or learned quickly. It develops over decades of human experience. Marlene from Detroit noticed this shift when her adult daughter went through a painful divorce. 20 years earlier, Marlene might have rushed to offer solutions. Instead, she simply sat with her daughter in the pain, providing presence rather than advice. Her daughter later said that silent companionship meant more than any words could have. Believing you have become less emotionally connected with age contradicts what research actually shows about compassionate response. If anything, your capacity for deep emotional connection may be stronger now than when you were younger. Lean into caregiving and supportive roles, because your capacity for emotional connection is a genuine strength, not a liability. Your compassion is needed more than ever, and someone in your life needs the emotional support you are uniquely equipped to provide. Do not hold back from offering what you have. Number 6, memory for meaning and the big picture strengthens. Ever notice that while you might forget where you put your keys, you remember the essential lessons from experiences decades ago with remarkable clarity? This is not a contradiction. It reflects how different memory systems age differently. The brain appears to prioritize meaning over detail as it ages, preserving what matters most while letting go of incidental information. This shift has significant implications for how older adults should think about memory. Research shows semantic memory, your stored knowledge about the world, remains remarkably stable through healthy aging. Studies from multiple institutions confirm vocabulary and conceptual richness often improve into the mid-60s before stabilizing. Researchers at several universities found older adults excel at gist memory, capturing and retaining the meaningful essence of experiences even when specific details fade. This may actually represent an adaptive shift rather than pure decline. A study in neuropsychology found older adults' semantic memory networks show compensatory mechanisms that maintain function, with the brain recruiting additional resources to preserve access to accumulated knowledge. This is why grandparents can offer life wisdom that cuts through confusion, even when they cannot remember what they had for breakfast. The ability to extract meaning from experience, to see patterns across decades, and to communicate essential lessons may actually improve with age. While episodic memory for specific events and details declines, the distillation of meaning from those events often becomes sharper. Norman from Charlotte describes it this way: he may not remember every fishing trip with his father, but he remembers exactly what those trips taught him about patience, about silence, and about the kind of man he wanted to become. The specific memories faded, the meaning crystallized. Fixating on minor memory lapses while ignoring your strengthened ability to extract meaning leads to unnecessary anxiety and missed opportunities. Everyone forgets where they put things occasionally, regardless of age. What matters more is whether you retain the lessons, the insights, and the accumulated wisdom that guide good decisions. Focus on capturing meaning rather than memorizing details. Take notes for specifics, but trust your brain to retain what matters most. Your brain has been building a cathedral of knowledge for 60 years. The architecture is sound, even if some of the furnishings have moved around. The research is remarkably clear on this point. Your 60s and beyond bring genuine cognitive and emotional advantages that younger people simply do not possess. Your vocabulary is richer than it has ever been. Your emotional stability is stronger than at any previous point in your life. Your social wisdom runs deeper than you may realize. Your decision-making in certain domains is actually sharper than that of people half your age. Your capacity for compassion has deepened with experience. Your memory for meaning has been distilling lessons from decades of living. These are not compensations for decline or consolation prizes for growing older. They are legitimate strengths that reach their peak precisely when society tells you everything is supposed to fall apart. The question is not whether these advantages exist, because the science has already answered that definitively. The question is whether you will recognize them and put them to work in service of the people and purposes that matter most to you. Which of these strengths have you noticed growing stronger in yourself over the years? Share your experience in the comments below, because your insight might help someone else recognize abilities they did not know they had. If this information changed how you think about aging, share this video with a friend who needs to hear it today. And if you want more research-backed content about living your best years after 60, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.